Welcome to the NFT Finance Podcast, sponsored by Goldman Sachs. My name is Terry, and today we welcome Arnav, the co-founder of Nibble. Welcome, Arnav.
Hi, Terry. Great to be here.
Awesome. Maybe first you can give yourself a quick introduction and tell us a little bit more about sort of your background and how you got into NFTs.
Sure. So I've been in crypto since 2017. I was still in college back then doing my undergrad in computer science in India. And I just stumbled upon it when one of my college seniors came and told me to bought some crypto during the bull market. And I started like this podcast back in the day, which became like India's most famous technical podcast in crypto. From there, I sort of, worked at a couple of other crypto companies like Gnosis, Biconomy, and Zilliqa. And yeah, just dabbling around the space since then. It's the only industry I've been worked in. I don't have any life. And I stumbled upon NFTs, I think in 2017 during CryptoKitties time, but didn't get super deep into the space. I got back into the space actually in 2021 January when the Hashmask project launched. I minted a couple of Hashmasks because I thought it was really cool art and I really liked the mechanism for doing the sale. And so yeah, that was my getting back into the NFT space. And since then, I have never looked back. Bought a couple of other NFTs as well, and just always looking at what's new, what are new interesting use cases happening with the NFT space.
Could you give us a quick introduction of Nibble and how it works?
Yeah, Nibble is an NFT fractionalization protocol. Basically allows someone to lock an NFT or a basket of NFTs in a smart contract, get ERC20 tokens that represent ownership in that NFT or basket of NFTs. And then people can, buy and sell these tokens on top of Nibble's bonding curve. We have a bonding curve mechanism for these tokens to facilitate high liquidity of these tokens and for fairer buyouts. What we mean by buyouts is like once an NFT is fractionalized, someone can potentially, make it back whole again. If there isn't a good buyout mechanism, then what does happen, as has happened with some of the fractionalization protocols, is that the value of the fraction tokens can become less than the value of the underlying NFT, because there's no way someone can arbitrage it. So having a good buyout mechanism ensures that the tokens get traded at some base value. So yeah, like Nibble at the base level, it's just a protocol for creating these fractional tokens, trading them, and for buyouts. How I view it is it's a primitive for taking an asset that is owned by one person, then can be owned by multiple people, can be traded by amongst those multiple people, and then can be made back whole again by one person.
Gotcha. Can you give us an Alice and Bob example, say from the perspective of a fractionalizer and one from the perspective of a buyout participant or someone who's trying to buy out the asset or collection of assets that has been fractionalized?
Yeah. In terms of fractionalizer, it's like if you want to fractionalize, you just connect your wallet on Nibble. We pick up NFTs that are in your wallet, and then you can fractionalize. You can set terms on how many tokens you want to create, what's the token symbol, etc., etc. What's the valuation you are going to fractionalize it at? So, and you need to add some liquidity as well to bootstrap trading on the system. So that's the process of fractionalizer. For a person who wants to buy the fraction tokens, they just need to come in and put in ETH or Matic or whatever reserve asset is used for fractionalizing, and then they can they can just buy the fraction tokens by putting in ETH or Matic, and they'll be able to see the tokens in their wallet. We also have this feature where someone can, like the original fractionizer, they can create derivatives of the original NFT, or it's up to them if they want to create derivatives or not. And these derivatives are essentially ERC1155 tokens, and they can specify some mint ratio. So only if someone owns some amount of ERC20 tokens, only then they are able to mint this derivative ERC1155 NFT. And this was added so that people who are buying these tokens, if they do want to see the NFT in their wallet, if they own some minimum amount of tokens that was specified by the original fractionizer, then they'll be able to even see they'll be able to, like, mint uh, these NFTs by wrapping their ERC20 tokens, and then they'll be able to see it in their wallet. So that's the process for the fractionizer and person who is buying the fractions. Then for buyouts, as you were mentioning, so the buyout process is like we for in order for someone to trigger a buyout, they need to trigger it at the current valuation that is fetched directly from Nibble's bonding curve where the tokens are getting traded. And then, like, let's say if the current valuation is 100 ETH, then someone can trigger a buyout by putting in 100 ETH. Then, there's a timer for 4 days that starts. And in that timer, if the valuation increases by 15%, we are taking this number right now, then the buyout is rejected. So if, let's say, within the 4 day time period, the valuation goes to 115 ETH, and this is actually TWAP valuation. If it reaches 115 ETH, then the buyout is rejected. Otherwise, the buyout is accepted. And why we sort of chose this mechanism is like, if, let's say, there is decent interest in the community for the NFT to remain fractionalized, or from someone for outside as well, they feel that this NFT is undervalued, they can come in and actually put in some money into the system, and increase the valuation to reject Whale's buyout. And in the case that there isn't much interest, then the Whale who triggered the buyout, after the 4 day time period, they'll be able to unlock the NFT, the buyout will succeed. And the people who were holding on to the tokens, they will be able to redeem the tokens at the valuation the buyout was triggered at. So if you were holding, let's say, 1% of the supply and the valuation was 100 ETH, then you'll be able to redeem, 1 ETH from the pool. So, yeah.
Gotcha. I guess I'd love to hear your perspective in terms of comparing this mechanism of buying out to previous iterations, and sort of the analysis on why previous iterations have not worked or have failed, where this might work better.
Yeah. So I think there are two main iterations that happened previously. One was by Niftex, which was during, like, they had launched in 2020, I think, and they got acquired by someone. So that platform is no longer live. But what they had done was, like, they had this feature where you could have the fractions, and they can be, the the how it used to work is like someone needed to buy some percentage of the tokens, fractional tokens, and then they, were going to trigger a buyout at the current. They had to trigger a buyout at the valuation that they wanted to, and then in order to reject the buyout, someone else needed to buy their tokens at the valuation buyout was triggered at. So this mechanism was used by Niftex. Actually, Fractional.art, who rebranded to Tessera, they are also sort of using this mechanism now. The issue with this mechanism was it was very difficult to actually reject someone's buyout. And also to trigger a buyout was also a bit tricky, because if you didn't hold a lot of the tokens, then you need to put in a lot of money, and like it became a bit challenging. And I think you had need to hold minimum 5% of tokens or something to trigger a buyout. So first, acquiring these tokens on their illiquid market was difficult, and then if someone did, then rejection was also difficult for the community, because, like, let's say someone is triggering a buyout at some valuation, let's say it's 20% higher or whatever than the current valuation of the tokens, then people had to buy tokens at a higher valuation from the person who triggered the buyout. So let's say if the valuation is, like, let's say the valuation on their trading system was 100 ETH, and someone triggered a buyout for 120 ETH valuation, then you need to buy, first of all, the tokens at these 20% higher valuation. But the problem was you are taking a risk then that the valuation will eventually increase, and the tokens still on their bonding curve were still getting traded for 100 ETH valuation. So that was like, buyer rejection was difficult. And then you had to, I think people had to communicate with a lot of people to reject the buyout, because you needed like a lot of yeah, it was very rare for one person to come and reject. So it was a group effort, and then it was a bit of a challenge, and people were not actually rejecting buyouts and stuff. So what we sort of built this system is like, instead of communicating with people, you just communicate with our bonding curve, and whenever you are buying the tokens to reject to increase the valuation, you are like, the value in the secondary market sort of also reflects that. So it's not like you are buying tokens from someone at a higher valuation and then you have to wait for price to rise in the secondary market. In this case, you are just buying from the bonding curve and the price just directly reflects in the secondary market. So that makes it easy for someone to reject the buyout, like, especially if it's like a timer, 4-day timer and stuff, then like, it makes less sense, like you are buying and the price is also rising instantly. So that is how it compares to Niftex. Then comparing to Fractional has now changed their architecture, and there's still not enough data on their V2 on how it will go. But I think they will have similar issues that Niftex faced, is amongst like coordination and getting like people to reject is going to be a bit difficult, because the price don't reflect in the secondary market instantly. So that is, I think, with fractional V2. With fractional V1, they had a mechanism where people needed to set a reserve price, and if 51% of the tokens had set a reserve price and someone triggered a buyout at that reserve price, then buyout would like a buyout auction starts for 4 days or something, or 7 days, and then it's an auction process. Whoever places a higher bid, they are able to do a successful buyout. Um, and the issue with that was that if someone did, there were two issues. One, if someone did hold 51% tokens, they were able to decrease the reserve price and then trigger a buyout, which did happen with Party of the Living Dead, CryptoPunk, and a couple of other NFTs. And then it was like it was an all or nothing buyout basically. So once a buyout was triggered there, it was meant that the NFT is going to get sold. It's just matter of what price it's going to get sold, and it will be dependent on an auction process. But that meant like, yeah, it was not a process where if it's rejected, then the NFT comes back to the fractionalized state again. And second issue with their mechanism was like, sometimes it was very difficult for, if it was a very decentralized NFT, which a lot of people owning it, was very difficult to get 51% people to actually come in and vote, because it was on-chain voting, and people had to spend gas fees and stuff. So in some cases, it became very difficult for a buyout to happen at all, because 51% people didn't actually come in and vote. So yeah, with Nibble, we sort of we don't have any voting, and the process is very simple in our opinion. It's like you just come in and trigger a buyout at the current valuation, and then there's a simple rejection mechanism for the community. And in the case it gets rejected, you just need to put in some money, and it's very easy to coordinate. You just talk to the bonding curve. You don't need to talk to someone in Discord and like try to figure out how to reject the buyout. Just come in and reject the buyout. Like that's how it works. Yeah.
Gotcha. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the trade-off here is between allowing essentially fractionalized share owners to have some sort of floating price or variable price, and the ability for people to, I guess, really trade amongst each other at a price that they believe is fair market value for these fractions, versus having a good sort of recomposition buyout mechanism. Is that sort of the right way to think about it?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, I guess in Nibble's case versus the other competitors, it would be that as a fractionalized NFT holder, I don't really get the opportunity to have a variable price on this fractionalized NFT, right? Because buying and selling happens on the bonding curve that is predefined. But on the other hand, it's much more of a peace of mind for the fractionalizer in that it is very easy to trigger and reject a buyout. Is that sort of the correct way to think about the trade-offs of this type of design?
Yeah. Everything, yeah, it's everything is defined from the bonding curve. I think one trade-off is that yeah, it's like anyone can come in and trigger a buyout. So it's not a voting based process. So that is one trade-off with the current, like for example with fractional V1, people do need to put in some money to increase the valuation. It's not like they can just vote and stuff to reject the buyout. So I think that is one trade-off with our mechanism, that people need to actually put in money to reject a buyout instead of just voting. But yeah, and also as you were mentioning, the price is determined directly from the bonding curve, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like it's I think a efficient mechanism compared to if it's being done arbitrary by someone from outside. Like yeah, it's just determined directly from the bonding curve. And like if it's like people can sell, like the bonding curve sort of reflects the price that people are willing to pay and stuff, and people can sell and buy. It's a dynamic price, so will adjust depending on in fact what's the value of the underlying NFT as well. If it's falling a lot, then there could be a scenario where the token price falls according to the underlying value as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. I guess in practice, have you guys found that fractionalized assets of, say, a certain collection largely track the, I guess, accurate market value of that similar item in, I guess the one-to-one market, or well, more so some like a market like OpenSea or SudoSwap? Have you guys found that the valuations are roughly similar?
Not really. I think there's decent data to suggest on, for example, fractional art. Right now in us, we don't have too many NFTs, but if you look at, for example, fractional V1, I think it depends also a lot on what NFT it is. If it's like a rare NFT, then it's difficult to price it as well. But and floor values probably I think are not getting fractionalized as such, like at least now. So yeah, I guess there isn't enough data to suggest like they are tracking floor price. If you just look at fractional.art, I think it's pretty random. Although I think buyout, if someone is triggering a buyout, then they do definitely look at what valuation it is trading at. And usually they want to trigger a buyout if it's closer to the floor price, etc. So yeah, and I think for like NFTX sort of fractionalization, where you have a pool of NFTs that are getting fractionalized, they track floor price a lot better than our fractionalization or fractional art fractionalization, where you have where you're just fractionalizing one NFT. Because yeah, with one NFT, the prices can be moved very easily, and yeah, there could be sometimes scenario where it's getting traded lesser than floor price or higher than floor price. I think usually it's higher than floor price because when if it's lesser, someone will just come in and trigger a buyout, and then it might become equal to floor price or higher than floor price. But I think in general, if you look at all fractional NFTs, it's usually at a higher than floor price valuation, probably because there's more buyers and there's more liquidity and stuff as well of that particular NFT for just that one NFT. I think Brian Flynn from Rabbit Hole actually wrote an article on this some time back, where he sort of said that fractionalization of NFTs increases the value of the tokens, given that there's a good buyout mechanism. So I think, yeah, that's a good way to study about these as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, what's next for Nibble? What's next for NFT fractionalization?
Yeah, I think how I view what we're building at Nibble is just primitive, where you have a NFT, then you can fractionalize it, and then can be held by multiple people, and then can be made back whole again. So now the use cases we are exploring right now is mostly in two directions right now. One is working directly with collections who wanna take a rare NFT from their treasury and fractionalize it, and then do interesting things with that, either sell them or or to like reward the current community or future community. So they don't need to even launch a secondary collection for this. They can just take a rare NFT from their treasury and fractionize it. So that's we are working with a couple of collections like Good Minds, starting off with Good Minds actually this month. They created like five derivatives of their most rare NFT. They created five derivatives of that, and they are giving those derivatives to people, depending, like, to different types of people, like some for partners, some for minters, some for experimenters, etc. And how they created these derivatives actually is that depending on how many ERC20 tokens you own, like, you can mint these derivatives. So like, let's say if you want to mint a Schiller Wanda derivative, Wanda is the name of the NFT that they're fractionalizing, then you need to deposit one ERC20 token and you'll be able to mint this derivative. Then if you want experimenter, probably, I don't know the mint ratio that they are finalizing, but let's say 0.5 tokens, then you'll be able to get 0.5, like the derivative for that. So that is one use case. Then second, we are working with some projects who want to give NFTs as rewards. Like you would be seeing, for example, a lot of people doing NFT giveaways and stuff. So we worked with a project called Daplist, where they took an Emperor, they bridged it from ETH to Polygon, fractionalized it on Polygon, and then gave the fraction tokens as reward to their community members. Right now, 800 people are actually owning that Emperor. And 300 people have it as a PFP on Twitter. And since it was CC0, they created like a derivative of that, which was basically had the Daplist logo on the headphone, on the M4 headphone. So it was good marketing. We published a report on it as well. I think 50-60% user growth happened because of these rewards. So we are working with some companies who want to experiment with this, on this model, because NFT communities are so tight knit, and directly reaching out to them for getting users is an interesting mechanism. So yeah, it's right now just these two, working with collections. One of Fraction is a rare one, and then secondly, with projects who want to experiment and probably get branding, marketing, get users from NFT community. Then we are also working with some artists and stuff who want to fractionalize some rare NFT, rare 1:1, and then sort of do interesting things with them. Because how I sort of view this sort of fractionalization, what we Nibble and what even Fraction or Ride is doing, it's like you need to actually work for these fraction tokens to have value. Otherwise, NFTX sort of fractionalization makes a lot of sense, because for that, if you just want exposure to a collection, then NFTX is probably a better way. But if you actually want to become part of a community, own something together, then then Nibble sort of makes sense. And then probably people who are serious, who want to basically build a community out, only those are interested. And usually what I've seen, it's like mostly collections or projects, or maybe some large collector who wants to build a brand around his NFT or whatever. For them, they are the ones who might be interested to follow this sort of fractionalization model. So yeah, that's what's next.
Gotcha. How can people find out more, and how can they get involved in Nibble?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow us on Twitter, NIBBL NFT. We had a crazy rebranding from Nonce Finance. We were previously called Nonce Finance, and now again people are saying our name was not good. But let's see. It's called Nibble. Nibble means owning small pieces off. So NIBBL without the E, NFT. You can just join our Discord and stuff. Shoot someone a message, and we can. I mean, there are a couple of things you can get involved with. If you want to work closely with some of the projects and come up with interesting campaign ideas for the projects who want to use these fraction NFTs, you can get involved there. And yeah, in general, like if you are interested to own a piece of NFT, just send me a message. I'll send you some piece. If you want to just get a feel of how it feels to own a piece of a blue chip. So yeah, just send me a message on Discord and stuff, and I'll be happy to send you some, like $1 or $2 worth of a fraction. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Arnav, for your time. And listeners, go check out Nibble.
Thanks, Terry. It was great.
Follow me on Twitter. I'm 0xTayTayHoHo on Twitter. That's Tay with an E. And you can follow Ryan at _Helmass.
Yeah, and that's _HELMASS. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you soon.